from Tom Whelan at Mass Live Events Coalition. Tom, go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair Kennedy, Chair Fuel, and members of the Joint Committee on Tourism, Arts, and Cultural Development. And thank you for providing the Massachusetts Live Events Coalition the opportunity to testify on the issues and recovery needs of our live events industry in Massachusetts. My name is Thomas Whelan, and I am the president of the Massachusetts Live Events Coalition, a state chapter of the National Live Events Coalition. Our coalition advocates for representation, support, and financial resources for the live events industry and our workforce who have been impacted by the extensive shutdown of the events industry due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Our Massachusetts Coalition is a network of over 2,000 workers and business owners. This network has become reliant on each other for assistance, information, and support while navigating this unprecedented time in our Commonwealth. I would like to take a moment to familiarize you with our industry, an industry that touches and impacts every single resident of the Commonwealth. In addition to live events and performance venues, most of our businesses and workers are the behind-the-scenes professionals. We are planners, trade show managers, ushers, caterers, entertainers, professionals who work in audiovisual, lighting, rentals, tents, floral, decor, staging, ticketing, security, valet, and so much more. The industry before COVID-19 employed roughly 12 million Americans, including an estimated 300,000 Massachusetts residents. Unlike restaurants, gyms, or personal service providers, our industry is not able to turn on the lights and go back to business as normal once restrictions are lifted. It will take months and for some years before live events related businesses will break even or even reach a profitable level. Events must be planned and produced, tickets sold, booth spaces booked, advertisements run, invitations sent, and so forth. One of the biggest roadblocks we face as we look to recovery is time. Future safety checklists and guidelines must include benchmarks for future planning. Establishing benchmarks for further allowances in capacity and operations are essential in stopping the hemorrhaging of our industry. Benchmarks are essential to getting our workforce back into the careers they have dedicated time and training to. Currently, our Commonwealth's performance venues are unable to plan for the future. John Peters of the Worcester Palladium explains it best. The thing with concert venues is it's all or nothing. The cost of producing our events requires an attendance of 90% to be beneficial. Currently, we have a great fall lineup. However, everything we book now is all subject to state regulations later. Our venues and planners need a better timeline for a better future. California's tiered blueprint is a notable example of the kind of benchmarks we need here in Massachusetts. The California Blueprint for a Safer Economy outlines a framework for a safe progression of opening more businesses and activities considering the pandemic. Should the Commonwealth adopt a system like that of California, booking agents will be able to include our state theaters and entertainment venues in national tours. Erica Schwartz, General Manager of the Emerson Colonial Theater, an Ambassador Theater Group venue, recently explained the need for opening blueprints in Massachusetts and stating that, as venues working throughout the Commonwealth, we need a 4 to 6 month ramp-up window for when we will be able to operate at a 100% capacity. We need this time to book and produce the shows that we will be having in our spaces. We are not like other industries in this sector that only need a few days to operate. Booking agents and managers are booking the fall 2021 and into 2022 now. The window of opportunity is closing quickly. And if we do not have some sense of timing of when we can operate at 100% indoors in the coming month, we will have to kick the can further down the road. What would be most prudent is to have monthly check-ins and roadmaps so we can evaluate when will we be able to open meaningfully. Without that, we are operating blind and will lose the opportunity to plan for shows and be left out of the routing. As you will see in written testimony submitted to the Joint Committee in response to this hearing, the guidelines lack a depth of understanding in how the events industry operates in the Commonwealth. No better example of this is the forbiddance of live singers on stage during events. If musicians and industry experts were included in the reopening planning, solutions to safe live performances would have been offered. Natalie Ental, owner of Soul City Entertainment, performs with her husband in a wedding band in Massachusetts. They played an integral part in the wedding day of so many couples. When asked about these guidelines, Natalie states, all musicians would be willing to take additional precautionary measures for indoor performances, including remaining masked while singing, as we need and want to return to work as soon as possible. We are barely surviving. Our industry, our business, our musicians, our livelihood, our families, everyone is affected by this minor difference that does not allow us to do our jobs. Thousands of artists are without any income. Future planning of how to return safely to our work has led to stress, anxiety, and confusion in what the future holds. As we begin to get guidance plans from the Governor's Reopening Committee, it has become evident that our craft, knowledge, and expertise is not being utilized. Kara Pratt, Vice President of Business Development and partner of CSI Destination and Event Management, explains, a big challenge is a lack of standard protocols or resources to get those protocols confirmed. Live events inside ballrooms or meeting venues are still completely unclear as to what the requirements will be and how to keep attendees feeling safe enough to show up and attend or engage in those meetings. Our clients and their audiences must feel fully confident that a gathering of any size will be safe. In a survey conducted by the Live Events Coalition, over 57% of our businesses report that they will fail by summer 2021, even after the latest round of PPP. These business owners who have depleted their life savings, lost their family homes, vehicles, and taken on massive debts to try and stay afloat. Our workforce, despite a recorded average of 20 years professional working experience, have gone from 5 a.m. work calls to standing in food lines due to food insecurity. The fiscal impact of the pandemic is single-handedly crippling our industry. In March 2020, our events industry had the single most catastrophic week, one we hope to never experience again. Becky Gray of Bent Productions in Clinton, Mass. Reported a loss of $300,000 between March 11th and March 13th, 2020. After 11 years of hard work developing a small specialty manufacturing business in central Massachusetts, it was gone. I would like to take a moment to acknowledge and thank the committee members who voted for the appropriation of sector-specific grants through the Mass Growth Capital Corporation via the Commonwealth's operating budget for fiscal year 21 and the CARES Act of 2020. These grants have become a lifeline to those in our industry. They provided a temporary respite for so many endangered businesses. This allocation of funds by the Massachusetts legislation was the first sign that someone had heard the cries of our industry. These grants of up to $75,000 benefited live event support companies, such as photography studios, florists, limo services, and event planning companies, event rentals, performers, conventions, and trade show organizations. They have kept the lights on at entertainment established restaurants, bars, and food trucks. Programs like the sector-specific relief grants are a lifeline to some, but many are still in the dark. Unfortunately, we need more. As we return to business, the costs associated with providing safe events that mitigate risk and create a comfortable atmosphere for attendees are expensive. Personal protective equipment, barriers, and reworking outdoor spaces are a cost that a business in the negative cannot budget. Therefore, the Massachusetts Live Events Coalition urges this committee to pass further legislation to assist our events industry and specifically the arts and cultural sector for our industry. Senator Kennedy's sponsored bill, an act to rebuild the Commonwealth's cultural future, will provide much sought-after relief for the artists, cultural organizations, and businesses in the Commonwealth who provide a major economic engine for related industries such as travel and tourism, hospitality, food and beverage, transportation, and specialized manufacturing. The Massachusetts Live Events Coalition is proud to be included in the 200 endorsers of this much-needed relief. The Massachusetts Live Events Coalition also asked for the consideration of further economic recovery drivers for our industry. We hope that this committee will consider the Shuttered Business Recovery Grant Program, which would help to provide a financial bridge until our businesses and workers can reopen and normalize operation. This recovery grant should include the following: grant eligibility tied to a defined Q2 through Q4 2020 revenue loss threshold to assist the entities that are hardest hit by COVID-19 closures. Grant amount should be tied to a percentage of the entity's past revenues from 2019. And Massachusetts' smallest businesses and sole proprietors should have the first opportunity to receive funding, followed by larger entities. The Massachusetts Live Events Coalition thanks you for your time and consideration of these issues facing our industry and needed recovery. On behalf of our coalition and its members, I will leave you with this. We were the first industry to close, and we will be the last to reopen. Our industry is comprised of trained and experienced professionals who should be included in conversations about both recovery and the ongoing creation of guidelines, benchmarks, and checklists. Thank you for the opportunity to have our voices heard.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tom and Emily. And now I'd open it up to questions. Does anybody have a question? So we've got plenty of time for questions because we're we're running ahead of schedule at this point. So, all right. Representative Dylan Fernandez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll chime in. So thanks, Emily and Tom. And loud and clear that the guidance from the state has been slow, arbitrary, inconsistent, and we as legislators very much share that sentiment and feeling as well, because when that happens, we then hear from our constituents who complain about it, and then we have to go through and try to go through the weeds on the guidance and try to interpret it ourselves or reach out to the administration, because even for us it can be really hard to interpret just how complex and really kind of inconsistent some of what they've put out is. So I just want to share that we empathize with you on that and are pushing for similar, consistent guidance from the state. And I suppose the question would be, can you fill us in on what your conversations with the command center and the administration have looked like around trying to get that get that guidance set up in a way that helps this industry grow and move forward, especially as we, hopefully look towards a summer and future where people are vaccinated at a high enough rate that we can really start to grow this industry. So insight there would be welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Emily?
You're on mute, Emily. It's okay. Yeah.
Thank you for the question, Vice Chair Fernandez. I think the answer is it's been really hard. It's been, many of our members will reach out to what is considered the appropriate channels to ask questions and don't get answers, or get routed to someone else. And then I think this is also a place where we're also seeing inconsistencies. So depending on the capacity for an organization to make this a focal point and push and lobby really hard, sometimes we're seeing exemptions, but it's then very confusing for other organizations that don't have the ability to do that kind of lobbying. And it's causing a lot of frustrations. If I might also add, there's an extension here into our schools as well, where parents are completely flummoxed as to why cheerleading is happening, but their students can't sing or play wind instruments with the same distance requirements that cheerleading, which I think is one of the best sort of corollary examples, is being allowed to happen. So the answer is, the conversations are bleak, vague, and confusing. Thomas, I'm sure you also have a perspective on this. So, sorry, Chair, I don't want to moderate for you.
That's okay. Tom, do you want to jump in here?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for the question. Our organization, the Massachusetts Live Events Coalition, has reached out to both the governor's office and the reopening committee numerous times. In October of 2020, we actually staged an empty wedding during the full shutdown of mass gatherings in Massachusetts. We staged an empty wedding and brought in industry experts to show how seating can be done. We brought in vendors and, again, professionals who are so aware of everything that happens. An event planner is similar to a chef. They know all of the health and safety regulations in their craft that are required to keep all of the attendees safe. And the same for in live performance venues. You know, we've had amazing conversations with different small venues who are thinking craftily on how they can do singing. I've heard stories of singing in dressing rooms while the band is on stage. You know, using that ingenuity that only a trained professional in a craft would know. These are trade workers. We are freelancers, gig workers. They have seen it all. If you have a question on how to do something, even for like a home gathering, they will give you insight that you will never have known about. We've also joined task forces, including a NACE task force that shared with the governor's office and the reopening committee, as well as a number of the members of the Massachusetts House edited guidelines of inclusionary terms and references so people know what things mean. You know, I think one of the things we really want to stress is the inclusion of having our Massachusetts professionals in the events industry during these discussions, or at least an opportunity to be heard. Because the insights that they will have after years of doing what they do are invaluable. They have always kept in mind the health and safety of our attendees. If not, that's the first priority. And so we just want to make sure that we're being heard, and that when we ask for moments to review things, that, you know, hopefully someone will accept it one day.
Okay, thank you. Representative Fernandez, did you have your hand up again, or was that from previous time?
So I'll lower it. Thanks.
Okay. All right, are there any other questions? If not, I want to thank both of the panelists, and I'll turn it over to Chair Fiola to introduce the fifth panel.
Thank you, Senator. I just want to add, before I introduce the fifth panel, Vice Chair Fernandez, the topic of these gatherings for live venues, live events, has been really probably my most frustrating moment in the last several months, and for the last many months. The guidance, the lack of, that has been the one area that the industry has really struggled the most, as we've been hearing today. A venue for a wedding that can be safe, that can be socially distant, and has the space to do much more, to be limited to that now 100, when their facility is so much larger. I think there needs to be different guidelines. I think it has to be reviewed. We've been urging that. You've all been urging that in this arena. My wedding venue locations have been urging and fighting along with the musicians. And I think the administration will hear that today again. And with the increased vaccinations around the corner, open to everyone, I am really hoping we can, as soon as tomorrow, get some guidance, because the planning for this industry that is involved, those musicians will not automatically have a gig tomorrow because a facility can now accommodate them. It's going to take time, and that time we could miss out on a very valuable second season that we're missing out on. And so I agree with you. I think that's a huge issue, and something that we implore the administration to work on as soon as possible. They've heard it from me. They've heard it from you. I know they understand it. We just need to see some action, we hope, taken very soon. So I just want to add my voice to that. Panel 5, I mean, we had 5 panels.